It's just the weather. In other words, some days there's storms with lightning, some days it's cold, snowing. It's all the weather. It'll change. The weather will get better again. So even if someone hurts your feelings, it's okay. So you had a day of bad weather. Tomorrow it'll be sunny. It turns out the woman was screaming at him, and while she was screaming from the noise and he's trying to defend himself and say, "No, I didn't take it," suddenly people that were in the street, strangers came and they approached the scene and they started getting involved and they also started screaming at him. Then the poor storekeeper, he felt like such a miskin, such a nebuch. People were screaming at him, and the lady started telling everyone that this storekeeper took from my little son, from my child, a very expensive coin. So they decided to go to Beit Din. Let's go to the Jewish court and let the Jewish court decide. So they went to the Jewish court, and the Jewish court said, okay, according to Shulchan Aruch, in such a case, the chenvani, the storekeeper, has to make a shivua. He has to take a Sefer Torah or tefillin in his hand and swear by Hashem's name that he only took a small coin and not the Napoleon. So when the chenvani said, "No, I'm telling you, I didn't take the Napoleon," he says, I'm willing to swear. So right then, the father said, no, I don't want him to swear. I can't have him, the chenvani, swear in vain Hashem's name. I can't. I'm mochel, he shouldn't swear. So now he left the Beit Din without swearing, but everyone started saying he's guilty, and everyone said, what a shame on him. And people even said, don't buy from his store anymore. He's a ganav, he's a shakran, he's a crooked man. And before you know it, his store started losing customers until he mamish suffered poverty, Rahman al-Islan. So what happened many years after the war ended? 6 years later, now the English were in charge of Israel, the British. And the Mohel, Rabbi Davis, gets a letter from somebody who was an Avrech, a young man, Tamil Chacham, a good man. And the letter said, I want to return the money that I took from you 6 years ago. He's reading the letter, doesn't know what this letter is. And it says, one time I was walking in the street starving, and my children and my wife and children were starving, and I didn't have anything to give them, and I saw your son walking with a gold coin. And I said, wow, what a rich family, the little kids walking around with a gold coin like that. So I started talking to the kid, and I said, hey, what do you got there, kid? Let me see it. And he showed it to me, and I started playing with the coin, and then I switched coins, and I gave him a cheap Kherla coin. And I took the gold coin so I could buy food for my family. And I was really wrong for doing it. I should have asked you for a loan, but I was just so desperate. My family was starving to death, and I didn't know what to do. So now, Baruch Hashem, years later, I have money I want to pay back. Meanwhile, the father is so embarrassed. His wife called the storekeeper a crook and a ganav when he was telling the truth. And oivei, how many people embarrassed him and said we're not going to shop by him anymore, and he lost his business. He didn't know what to do. It turns out he wanted to make up with the person, but I don't even know if he was able to find him and locate him anymore. But when Rabbi Shalom Shajan said this story, he said that some say that really the chenvani wanted to swear, but whatever the story was, we learned from this story of Shalom Shajan that before you say someone is bad, know the facts. Don't jump to conclusions. And he said, the worst person in the story was? Not the wife that was screaming names and insulting the storekeeper, not the father, not the son, the strangers that got involved and said, yeah, you're bad. They were the worst people in the story. Because don't get involved in someone else's fight. I hope we learn from this very scary story that we should not call people names and not get angry at people. Maybe they're really good people after. I'd like to tell you a story about a mean heart and a nice heart. In this week's parsha on Shemos, we learn about Aaron HaKohen and Paro. Actually, not this week's parsha, but in Shemos, it says that Aaron had a nice heart. He sees his brother's chosen to lead the Jewish people. He's so happy for his brother. Baruch Hashem, Mazel Tov. And then we have someone else in that parsha who has a very mean heart. And that's Paro. And Paro says, what? The Jews, they left. They're not coming back. I'll go get them. I'll slave them. I'll take them. I'll kill them. Two people have a heart. One's heart is so sweet, so gentle, so kind. And the other one is so mean, so violent, so cruel. So my daughter Esther had to, for the Siyum on Parsha Shemos, bring in something that has to do with the Parsha. So one girl brought in little worm candy because Moshe's stick turned into a snake. It looked like a snake. But my wife said, Esther, you bring in hearts. Those red lollipops shaped like a heart. And you'll tell people that some people have a nice heart and some people have a mean heart. In my little thing here, it says the heart can be very mean. The heart can be very mean. Or the heart could be very nice. Aaron, his heart's very nice. Paro, his heart's very mean. Okay, so this story is about some people who use their heart to do something very mean and to kind of ruin someone's life, even though he didn't do anything wrong. He was the victim of meanness. Let's hear the story. It comes from Rabbi Shalom Shvadran's book, and it's called The Storekeeper Was Right.
That's his title.
He was honest. But no one else thought that. They thought he was a crook. They thought he was a liar. So let's hear the story. The story happened at the time of World War I, in the year Tuf Reish Ayin Daled. That's approximately 90 years ago. And the story took place in Yerushalayim, the holy city. There was a Yerushalmi Jew who was a very nice person, a very good person. He was a Moyel. We'll call him Rabbi Moyel. And what happened was, at that time, Israel was under the government of the Turks. The Turkish government was ruling Israel at that time, and it was very hard for the Jews. The government was tough on the Jews. They weren't helping them enough. And because it was a wartime, there was a big shortage of food. And people were starving. And I'm going to ask the boys that have gum in their mouth to stop chewing it or popping bubbles out loud. It's not menschlich. Thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry.
And you should never know of hunger. But at that time, there was a lot of hunger. And the Moyel, he had one coin that was called a gold Napoleon. Now let me tell you something. Gold is very valuable. If a person has a gold Napoleon, that's a coin that is really valuable. You know, some coins, you could sell them for a fortune of money. I think a Napoleon was probably worth about $10,000. That's about enough money to feed your family for a whole year, or at least a half a year. And this Moyel had a Napoleon, a gold Napoleon, and he kept it on top of his bookcase. So every good Jewish home has Svarim up to the ceiling, and he had on top of his bookcase this coin. I guess he was saving it for one day emergency if he needs food to feed his family. He would sell the gold Napoleon coin. I'm sure if you're a coin collector, you know that certain coins of certain eras and with certain kings upon the coin made the coin's value skyrocket, and you could sell it for a lot of money. It turns out this Napoleon, which was kept on top of the bookcase, one day disappeared. And I'll tell you how it happened. You see, I'm not so sure how this Moyel got the Napoleon coin. Maybe he found it, but whatever the story is, at that time, there were many people that were starving. And if you have such a coin, you could sell it, and with money you could buy a lot of things that you need for your family. So he left this sparkling, shiny gold coin waiting for a day where emergency, because some people have a savings, money they put aside for when they need it. So how did it disappear? One day his little boy, who was only about 7 or 8 years old, decided he wants to go shopping, and all he knows is that with money you can buy candy. So he really should have asked his parents' permission, because you have no business going into your father's wallet or your mother's purse and helping yourself to the money. Who do you think you are? Their heir who inherits their property in their lifetime? So he decided, the boy, that it's okay if I take it. It wasn't okay. And he didn't even know the difference between a penny, a shiny copper coin, and a Napoleon, a gold coin. He only knew one thing. I want a piece of chocolate or some candy now. And he decided, oh, you brought me a cup of water? Thank you so much. Oh, okay, go get me a cup of water. And thank you. And the boy took the expensive, shiny Napoleon coin. You know what that's like? Imagine a little kid walking in the street now with the briefcase filled with his father's money, and the little 7-year-old kid, he's got his football in one hand, his father's briefcase of money in the other hand. Yipes! What if he loses it? Well, the little boy went off to the store, and he walked into the yummy candy store, and he was thinking, should I buy sukariyas, which is candies, or sufganiyot, which is donuts, or maybe garinim lepitzuach, maybe sunflower seeds, because Israelis love to bite sunflower seeds and, eat that little seed in there. So he didn't think so much. He just took the Napoleon, and off he went. Meanwhile, that's the name of the coin. It's named after the Emperor of France, who was a very valiant soldier. General. And it turns out the Abba came home, and he was looking around, and he said, something looks different. And as he looked at his bookcase, he realized, hey, my Napoleon coin is missing. He called to his wife, dear Ashes Chayil, do you know where my coin is over here? She didn't know. They looked all around. Where could it be? And meanwhile, the little boy came in running back from his playing time outside, and the parents asked him, did you take something from the bookcase? And the boy said, yeah, I took a coin. Where is it? I went to the store and I bought candy. Before the kid could finish the sentence, the mother dashed out the door. I didn't even know if she remembered to take her umbrella. And she was at the store. And she started screaming like only a woman knows how. And she said, you thief! You took our Napoleon! Oh, the nerve! How dare you! You took advantage of my son! You just gave him a few candies! You're a Russia! You're so wicked! You are a crook! You are a thief! This is terrible! She didn't finish screaming yet. How did you dare do such a thing? And she was starting to pull out her hair. And the guy could barely speak while he was being verbally attacked by this poor woman. And he says, what are you saying? And she says, a whole Napoleon! It was the only one I had. My husband was saving it. And you took it. This was enough to feed our family for a half a year. The storekeeper was out of breath, just being screamed at. He says, what do you want from me? The child just gave me a penny. No, it wasn't a penny. It was a Napoleon. I'm telling you, ma'am. A child can make a mistake. If he told you it was a Napoleon, I'm an adult. I think you should believe me. It was a penny. What does he know the difference between a shiny copper coin or a shiny gold coin? But the woman would not let up. She started saying, you don't know what you did. How dare you? And as she was screaming, people started coming by the store to find out what's all the commotion about. Made a bracha before. And you know what? She didn't give up. She says, you took the coin. And she says, go. She called the boy. What did you take? And he said, I took the coin that was on top of the bookcase. And that was where the Napoleon.